Most credit unions spend some on marketing, but barely invest in PR. That's a missed opportunity, especially in an AI driven world. PR builds the credibility and organic visibility that search algorithms actually recognize. Today, I'm talking with Katy Wegnon. She is the Chief Experience Officer at GoWest about why credit unions need to rethink their approach to public relations. We're covering practical PR strategies, leveraging member stories, awards in particular, as GoWest prepares for its MAXX conference, media participation, and how to use AI to find the narratives that matter to your community. If your credit union's PR strategy feels weak, this conversation's for you. Now let's connect with Katy. Hello, welcome everyone. I am Sarah Snell Cooke, your host here at the Credit Union Connection. I'm joined today by Katy Wegnon. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. It's so fun to be here.
Yeah,
You've been a
absolutely.
friend of GoWest. We've had several of our GoWest colleagues get to join you here on this podcast and talk about a lot of the great work we're doing. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, of course, you guys are doing great, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit
Yeah,
today, right?
yeah. Amongst other things. Yes.
Yes, and you are the Chief Experience Officer at
Yeah.
GoWest.
Yes, that is.
Give a little introduction about yourself and then the organization, although, like you said, we see it pretty well.
Yeah,
Incredible.
I was gonna say we've heard a lot about Go West. Obviously, we have 6 states of credit unions across the West that we focus on advocating for, amongst many other things. I joined Go West. I've been here about 3.5 years. I'm the Chief Experience Officer. So I have PR, marketing, events, and then all the digital channels. I always call
Mm.
them the channels that are the front door of Go West. That's what our members see and experience, and that's what my team manages, which is a really fun place to be in the credit union industry. I worked in banking before that for 12 years. And so I'm inspired every day by the work that credit unions do and feel so lucky to be here and be at Go West.
Yeah, I feel that 27 years later, for sure.
Yeah.
So you all are holding your Max Awards soon.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about that, but also just kind of to set the stage, a lot of people who apply for awards or don't apply for awards, should
Hmm.
apply for awards. It's a good PR move.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those who do, it's sort of a one and done kind of thing where it could spread out over time. So talk a little bit about this, awards coming up as well as
Yeah.
the types of opportunities that Cranes can make out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are in full swing. We are planning and promoting our Max experience, which is in October. So we're super excited about that. And it's one of the largest gatherings of our 6 states of credit unions in the West. And one of our favorite nights, and I think a lot of our credit unions' favorite nights, is the Go West Max Awards. It is really a celebration of all the professionals and the volunteers and the credit unions that are doing outstanding work to really power and grow our movement. And it's all of their contributions that we really want to highlight. We have 9 award categories. Everything from employee experience to distinguished director to summit advocate. And then one of my favorite, which I was kind of alluding to a little bit earlier, is cooperation and action. Because
Mm.
I was at a bank for 12 years, and in those 12, and it was a great bank, but in those 12 years, I never saw banks come together to do something to impact the community. They really did see each other as competitors. And I just think that is one of the most unique things that credit unions do. I remember early on at Go West, we had a fire in our community and it happened on a Friday night. And over the weekend, there was a call of Spokane credit union CEOs coming together, whether they were, had branches in that exact location. They all came together to uplift the community, decide what they were going to do, lean on each other. And it was that collaboration that just made such a huge impact. So that award is always near and dear to my heart,
Mm.
but we have a little bit of, every category to honor and celebrate all the great work throughout our credit unions.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so how can credit unions take advantage of this leverage, if they apply for award and they win
Yep.
award, how do they take advantage of that PR from a PR lens?
Yeah, well, we have a new award this year. And that is
Okay.
one of the I mean, beyond like the very true and inspiring to my heart Cooperation in Action Award, this new award is really powerful. It's storytelling with purpose. And
Mm,
that's an award we've been working with our credit unions a lot over the last couple of years to really own and find their PR voice because we really want to amplify as much as we can the stories within the credit union movement. And so we want to recognize the great
mhm.
work that they're doing in PR. We have a lot of credit unions that are leaning in to that work, and they've really demonstrated leadership in their storytelling and their media engagement. And we know how just critical that is for consumers to understand the difference and uniqueness in credit unions and then also in their cooperative model. But that all rolls up too to our elected officials and helps with all the advocacy work that we do. So we're really excited about that, just initiative that we have around PR with our credit unions and then to highlight their storytelling with purpose work at the Go Max Awards.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so I love that when I first saw that you guys even have a PR working group, I was like, yay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so exciting. It's in year two, almost double the amount of credit unions year over year that have decided to join that group, which is really
Hmm.
exciting.
Yeah, well, because I feel like nearly every credit union has a person who does marketing.
Mhm.
Sometimes in a smaller one, it might be the CEO doing their own
Yeah.
marketing. But PR isn't something that's as popular, really talked as much.
Well, you know what I
What?
think? I think there's only so much time in the day. And, I was a person that worked inside of a financial institution. And a lot of times PR is a nice to have, right? It was kind of like, oh, it's an afterthought. It's a nice to have. We're doing all this great work, but we're not necessarily telling our story. And I even think that with awards, right?
Mhm.
And awards are often like, I think credit, and I think this is another part of it is credit unions tend to be humble as
Yes.
an industry. And so I think just like that muscle hasn't been built, and we're doing this amazing work and we need to tell the story because it's good for
Mhm.
us. We need that consumer understanding, we need media understanding, and again, we need elected officials to understand the impacts we're making. And I think it's the same with awards, right? But what we're really hoping people see is awards no longer should be a afterthought because the
Mhm.
world that we're living in AI, it really is a reason for credit unions to actually make that part of their strategy from a
Yeah.
PR perspective. Because, and I think, a lot of people don't understand this, but our awards are one of the most underrated drivers of AI visibility. So
Mhm.
you know that AI systems are like constantly scanning and crawling and trying to learn from content like our press releases that we send out
Mhm.
and news coverage, right, from those press releases. So as our credit unions and organizations are really seen by and connected to credible third-party awards like our GoWest MAXX awards,
Mhm.
it really becomes a signal to AI that there's trust and leadership there. And it over
Mhm.
time, those award submissions, the news coverage, the content that you're really putting out there, it really helps AI describe your organization. And, when someone plugs into ChatGPT or, whatever system they're using and they're asking for a recommendation, you want your, organization to be the organization that populates there. And so
Yes.
some of this work is helping where your brand will show up in those results. And then even just for a journalist, like if they're looking to do a story, they're going to analyze your brand and it's a lot of that work in AI. So,
Yeah.
change so much from all of that paid content to now, it's like 99% of it is that organic search content.
Yeah, and if you're not telling your story, somebody else is gonna.
We
And
say
you
that
see all
all
the
the time.
nasty stuff the banks, no offense, but that
Yeah,
stuff the banks say about credit unions, if that's what comes out, that's not good for anybody's brand.
we say that all the time. I love that you
Mhm.
brought that up. And we've actually, over the course of the last couple of years, we always tell our credit unions, say yes.
Mhm.
Even times where we're like, nervous to take the interview, to do the story, like what if they ask us the tough questions? We always remind them, but you have the best story.
Mhm.
And it's the story that needs to be told. And really, sometimes, like from a policy perspective, perception really is policy. So
Oh
for
yeah.
us to be able to own those interviews and own the narrative is really important. And hopefully everybody understands the takeaway there is yes, getting the awards, it is good for your brand. It is a bit of chest pounding, but it's also really helping your credibility and your brand in this new AI world that we're all
Yeah.
navigating.
And it's not my big thing is it's not bragging if it's true. So
Exactly. You're just telling the story. You're just telling what you're
exactly.
doing.
And the way and I think especially when you speak to being humble, I think if credit unions can operationalize the stories that they collect from their members, that I always advise my clients that your story is a combination of all your client stories. And
Yeah.
so it's the same way with members too. Yeah, getting the members involved as well in that I think is
And
huge.
there's so many cool stories. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately is like there isn't just a size of credit union that should tell the stories. It's like large and small. We had, recently in Colorado, speaking of banks, there was a big bank that came in and bought a community bank and
Mhm.
they laid off almost 1,000 people. And
Mhm.
our Colorado credit unions came together collectively and launched a virtual job fair. And
Mhm.
they're allowing all these are encouraging these laid off bankers to
Mhm.
come apply for jobs that they already have open. I mean, it's just these super cool things that our credit unions are doing. And from Colorado, soon to be Wings, when
Mhm.
there was the partial government shutdown, they came in and helped FAA and TSA workers with skip a pay and other types of programs to really help keep them financially stable during times where, they were unsure when they were going to get paid again. And I mean, there's endless stories of work that
Yeah.
credit
And
unions are doing.
that was 10 weeks that some of
Yeah,
the T and Coast Guard were out. And yeah, I mean, a lot of those folks are also, the ones standing in the airport or whatever, and they're making a
yes.
heck of a lot of money to be able to survive, 10 weeks without a paycheck.
Exactly. Yeah. And so to have a financial partner that can come in, and that's just, again, the uniqueness of a credit union where they're really putting their members first and making sure that they can feel stable when everything else, in their world is
Mhm.
not stable. They
And
can at least have a financial stability partner.
yeah, and having images of that out on their website and their social media, all that kind of stuff, in your press releases, if you're going to do one
Yeah.
about that, which you should. Just
Exactly.
saying. But
Yeah, exactly.
I think, and because credit unions tend to pay short shrift to PR, I feel like that's actually a bigger part of building your brand than even marketing can
It
be.
is.
And so, yeah, it's kind of a chicken or egg kind of thing, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I just spoke on branding the other week, and the more brand type stuff you do, telling your short stories out there, making sure that people are hearing them, the less expensive your marketing becomes because you already have a
It's
strong brand.
so true. It's so true. And just like looking at the difference of where AI is finding, it's changed so much with SEO, and now everyone's asking their AI friend for recommendations. So it really is
Yes.
more that organic PR press release, news
Mhm.
coverage that isn't paid as much as before. Like if we were having this conversation a couple years ago, it would be the flip of that, right? It would be much more the paid content is what was driving SEO. So
Yeah. And hopefully that leads to more quality
yeah.
discovery than quantity. Yeah, so I think the other thing, and kind of gonna flip this on its head a
Yeah.
little bit, people are talking about AI is killing PR jobs.
Yeah.
I personally disagree that because of many, many reasons, but I'll let you speak to that point if you would like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say absolutely not true. I think the conversation we're having right now about how important PR is and how important, that needs to be a huge part of your strategy now over paid types of content. I think it just shows that there is more opportunity actually for growth in the PR industry and PR
Mhm.
professionals. And one thing that we're finding, we talk to a lot of journalists and they put a lot of the press releases through a filter. And if it's
Mhm.
not, an organic, genuinely written, unique to your brand press release, a lot of times they won't pick it up. So
Mhm.
I mean, I would say that it's more important now than ever for differentiating your brand.
Especially if you get an award saying you're the best credit union in whatever area or That's
Yeah, in this
crazy.
topic. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, this
For credit
subject.
cards, I think I just saw Navy on one of those lists.
Yeah,
So, I mean, obviously
exactly.
they're huge, but any credit union can get that if they do the work.
Yep.
Yeah. So, kind of got off track because
Yeah.
jam,
There's so much
but
exciting stuff right now in our, I mean, especially
Mhm.
in, yeah, PR and community.
Absolutely. Maybe there's some way to use AI to actually collect all those stories from call center, for example,
Yes.
or your loan officers
Yeah.
and put it together in a way that shows how you do every day. Because credit unions do this work every day, like you mentioned. And so they aren't used to like talking about it. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
extra to them,
Yeah.
but it definitely is.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for when you go back to like awards and you're looking at how to, why it matters so much for AI, it's like, because it checks so many boxes for AI,
Mhm.
it's third party validation. That is what is AI.
Yes.
That's what AI is looking at. It's structured format, it's categories and winners and years. It's published on, high authority domains that have a lot of credibility. They're crawling that, and then it's repeated across multiple sources. So
Mhm.
awards specifically check a lot of boxes. And so, our credit unions are having a lot of conversations about the operational side, like to your point, call centers, listening to calls and getting
Mhm.
sentiment and understanding employee service on those calls and what might be repeatedly needed in those calls.
Mhm.
But we're saying, and then there's this whole other side of it that you can be using from a PR brand
Mhm.
side of it and in ways that we've never seen in SEO do.
Mhm.
So I think it's really exciting to look at not only the operational side of it, but where AI is really helping from a visibility lens in the PR
Mhm.
space.
Yeah, so I normally wrap up with final thoughts. So for public relations and using AI in that,
Mhm.
what are your final thoughts you want to leave our Canadian audience with today?
I think a lot of people say, well, we already are doing marketing. We are, we hear that a lot. We have a marketing person whenever we're encouraging them to talk about PR and driving the PR voice and the PR narrative. I still think that it's just not a muscle that is strong right
Mhm.
now. And I still think that we're very much an industry that is very humble. We're doing all the work, but we're not telling the stories. And so I think AI and the focus on AI is the perfect time for credit unions to
Mhm.
really dive in and lean in to all the opportunity right now around PR. And, the more credit unions that we can get to tell their stories, the more that it just amplifies our credit union
Mhm.
industry and our credit union movement. And to your point, like the bankers are not going to let up. We know that they're happy to deliver false narratives. A lot of times when we have the opportunity to take an interview, we will sometimes staff that with our credit unions and we'll talk to the reporter. And the reporter has been fed so much information only from a banker. That is
Yes.
the only perspective they have. And so when we say yes to that interview and we get to tell that the true credit union narrative and tell our
Mhm.
story, it's really educating reporters and journalists,
Mhm.
and they're learning things that they wouldn't have just because we tend to not jump into those
Yes.
interviews and tell our stories. So I just think it's so powerful to say yes. Say yes to
Mhm.
learning how AI positions you from a PR perspective and say yes to those interviews to amplify the credit
Yeah.
union story.
Absolutely. And like you were saying earlier before we were on, is getting that a little bit of training ahead of time.
Yes, it's so
That's important.
helpful. Be
Mhm.
prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all righty. Tell us about the Max Awards, where people can apply, all that, who's eligible, that kind of.
Well, today is the last day
Oh,
for submission. So we have gotten so far, it looks like a record number of submissions. I will say I'm really excited about the new categories. We're seeing, a big increase in that storytelling with purpose submission. So I'm really excited to see what all we learn from this year and all the
Mhm.
great stories that we get to tell. Max is in October in Colorado. We are seeing a lot of registrants for Max. We're really excited. In 1 week, we had 126 people register. I really think that it's a gathering for no matter where you sit And no matter what your title is in the credit union, it's a great place for you to jump in and really understand kind of like the movement, all the great advocacy work that's happening across 6 states. We actually have credit unions come beyond our 6 states. So we've had national representation and
Hmm.
people just love, credit unions love to learn from each other.
Yes,
We
they do.
have breakout sessions that are led by other credit unions, and they're some of the most popular because, like I said, we're just such an industry that shares and
Mm-hmm.
really wants each other to be better for the overall movement. So I encourage everyone, no matter where you sit in your credit union, to look at MAXX because we really build out the content for all positions, and
Hmm.
we're mindful of the fact that it's in October when people are in their budgeting cycle, they're
Hmm.
planning for the next year. So we're going to be talking about PR, we're going to be talking about AI, we're going to be talking about innovation and really taking a look ahead at, what that next year is going to look like for credit unions. And then I think, so much of the value that we hear is just the networking and learning from each other. So we're really excited. It's going to be a great MAXX 2026.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate
Yeah.
it, Katie.
Thank you, Sarah.